Hey everybody, welcome back. It's Hermitage Strange Case Files. Apologies, an episode didn't go out Wednesday morning. The Isaac patch, just came out of nowhere, and I had to get some of the new Isaac update onto the channel, so apologies for that, but now we're back again with Hermitage Strange Case Files. What happened last time? So, a week ago when we played this last, we were met by Eloise, surprisingly, because I've suspected that she's dead. But she seems to be alive, at least from, the interactions we've had with her so far. And we chatted a little bit about the situations. Honestly, we didn't learn a huge amount, in my opinion, about the whole situation. But we missed out on an opportunity to do a more thorough investigation. There was a prompt, and I assumed it was going to tutorialize it and tell me when I should do it. Because it said, you have to wait for the perfect moment. And we just missed out on it. So maybe I've missed some, critical information there. Then we went back onto the forums and we were looking through an art student's, blog and just talking about the stresses involved with the art club life and so on. Anyway, let's get back into things now with Scarlet, who's appeared back at the bookstore. Looks like things are worse than expected. Scarlet's fingernails sink into the wooden table. I hear the sound of the wood creaking beneath my feet. It's becoming increasingly unpleasant. Come on, calm down. Calm down? It's not only Cecile and Eloise. Other students may have been exposed to this incense too. Do you understand how serious this is? Actually, we should have realised it earlier. Eloise already said that everyone was under pressure because their expectations are so high. It's not normal for them to be so confident when it comes to this year's competition. Something seemed off from the get-go. According to Cecile, she experienced hallucinations from a different perspective. Her classmate seems to have made impressive progress when it comes to painting from strange perspectives and has improved her spatial awareness. It's not hard to form a connection here. Of course, there's no definite evidence for this. It's all just guesswork. The number of people who have had similar experiences has increased. She puts her head in her hands and groans. Oh, if that's true, I'd rather not have gotten involved in this. Let's find a way to prove our suspicions instead of complaining about it all day. That shouldn't be too difficult. We can just keep an eye out for the art club students who have made a sudden progress when it comes to their paintings. Did you ask me to come here today just to scare me? I wish I had that kind of spare time. You left in such a hurry yesterday that there wasn't any time left to discuss this in more detail. To be honest, I don't think we have any time to waste. That sounds serious. I assume you found out something big yesterday? You could say that. I think I've gained some insight. So what is it? We spent a lot of time and energy on this already. If my assumptions are right, proof of our theory should be much easier to find than we expected. We're progressing faster than I thought. Huh. I get out my notebook. Scarlet sits up straighter. She seems more composed again. She knows that a calm approach is the only way to work in such a case. So how is this related to Cecile's hallucination? How do I prove the connection? Ah! Whoa, we have a lot of things. So, what happened to Eloise? Underneath its pure white exterior, Phoenix High School is hiding something bad. Can we find out more? Her visions reflect the past. So Cecile's been avoiding Eloise. I don't think that really helps. In the vision, Cecile saw Eloise lying in a pool of blood. Pieces of the painting were lying scattered around the unconscious students. How about that? I don't think this has anything to do with anything. Same. What's called Painting the Art Club? It was an amazing depiction of lymphos. The name was Lily was lit in the corner, and there were signs of damage to the painting. Maybe it's this then. Oh, something still bothers me. We're trying to give Cecile an explanation for what she's worried about. What is it? And why? What does it prove? If Cecile really does see things that already happened, it's really important to find corresponding events. Your words, not mine. So this is wrong. So, revisions reflect the past. Maybe it's not that? Iron but not steel. In the conversation with Eloise, it became obvious that she's very fond of Cecile, However, she also thinks that her friend should be more confident. Can we find out more? I kind of wish I saw the actual thing again. What I specifically asked to look at. What happened to Eloise? Bit of a thinker, honestly. Chronicles of the Crane Temple. I don't even remember this one. A biography of the rise and fall, oh, it must be one of the books, of the Crane Temple. This temple has flourished through the traditional art of looking into the void, until a monster called the Scaly Silkworm nearly destroyed everything in a failed ceremony. The mysteries of heaven and earth and the mysteries of time must not be regarded. If you see them, the Silkworm will see you in turn, and it will be merciless. I mean, maybe this then? The Usaid Cup incident? Iron but not steel. Because it's not this, right? We've just had the watercolour painting. That's 2 down. Something still bothers me. Okay, we're trying to give Cecile an explanation for what she's worried about. We're trying to find out if her vision really did occur. Then I feel like this is it. But it's not, because we've submitted that already. What happened to Eloise? So it's not Cecile, it's Eloise. We saw Eloise lying in a pool of blood. Have I missed something? Can I not do this? Have I missed a clue? Because I can only see this one, which gives some sort of evidence that the things happened in a vision. So she's having visions of Eloise. Cecile saw Eloise lying in a pool of blood. There was painting tattered, and then the painting was broken. Iron but not steel. I'm drawing blanks here. I don't quite get what it's asking for me. Because the only other thing I can think of is that this isn't necessary. And it's this instead. So there's a cheating incident in the USA Club. Painting, and then the blooming flower picture. Maybe? Suspicion approved! Holy moly, we got it. The former misdeeds of the Art Association. That's one possibility, and a dependable one at that. As we know from the description of the hallucination, Eloise suffered a serious injury. In that particular hallucination, Eloise fell to the ground lying there alongside her painting. The details were so distinctive that they leave me no doubt that painting is the one called Bloom. Now it is believed that Eloise is the artist, meaning there are 2 possible scenarios. Eloise either plagiarized someone else's work, or she simply took back what was hers in the first place. From what I've gathered from various documents, we shouldn't point a finger at Eloise, but at the girl named Lily. That would rule out the scenario number 1. I wonder if the person who exposed the whole thing to the Young Artists Association was even in the art club. In short, Eloise's injuries related to having made the painting. In the hallucination, Eloise is lying at the bottom of the stairs. I reconfirmed that with Cecile. Although she couldn't see much, she is absolutely certain about that. Okay, I do see a step in the background. So let's note this down. Bottom of the stairs, not the top. On the ground. The only logical conclusion is that she fell down the stairs. Yet strangely, Cecile sees Eloise with blood behind her head. I highly doubt that she ran downstairs backwards. So what possible scenarios could lead to that situation? I can only think of two. Someone pushed her from above, or someone pulled her from behind. Both seem unusually extreme, considering it's only about a painting. Falling down the stairs, pretty common cause of injury. Makes sense to drop a painting when something like that happens. Even if Cecile isn't on the best speaking terms with the others, it shouldn't be too hard to confirm that an accident like this took place last semester. You mean this could have been the event that led to Lily leaving the school to continue her studies at home instead? The two students I talked about also alluded to the fact that the parents would have had enough influence to keep a lid on the whole plagiarizing incident. Even if people gossip, it's all just an art competition in the end. As long as the people involved don't talk about it openly, and nobody approaches the media, there's no way it could turn into such a big thing. So things were going well, but then the accident led to Lily having to leave the school as quietly as possible. So they allowed her to stay at home to keep this incident from being exposed? It's just speculation, but from what we've gathered, it makes a lot of sense. Scarlet seems to agree. Did Lily do it? Doesn't seem so far-fetched after all. So this is about as far as we can get with what we have so far. I'll follow up on the incident and verify a few of the smaller things. Maybe the situation will be clearer after that. Do you plan on visiting the school again? It's too early for that. If I show up again so soon, it might cause suspicion. First, I'll find a way to check the school's administrative records. Do things the official way. Alright, there's one more thing you should keep an eye out for. And that is incense. Honestly, I thought you were going to mention the guy that threatened you last night. But sure. I need to know as much as possible about it. How far it has already spread. If this kind of thing is also popular among students outside the art club, the situation is much worse than we thought. There was that thing about Eloise's relative. You believe that? Scarlet looks stunned and doesn't seem to share my doubts. I can understand that someone with a modern upbringing like her might have difficulty grasping older traditions. Normal incense, before being sold as a finished product, needs to go through cleaning, drying, segmentation and other processes. Needless to say, it's quite complex. Looking at it from that angle, the incense Cecile showed me was quite rudimentary. The powder should be put into a mould and pressed before being wrapped in paper. Although the colour looked different, its contents resemble wood chips. It should be classified as an incense wood powder. Which raises a new question. Process heritage. In our country, the use of incense that retains its natural appearance and features was popular around the time before the Han Dynasty. Many pieces of wood needed to be burned in containers along with charcoal, which is an arduous procedure. The product basically evolves into a scented piece of wood, shaped kind of like a chopstick. If it's made into a powder mixed with honey, and then further processed with spices, it can be shaped freely, but can also be conveniently used for further cooking and baking. The aroma is more mellow. As a result, it's faster to make and more variety is possible. Think about how easy it is to use today. For example, when it's lit at graveyards. It's much more convenient. In addition, there's a long-running practice of using powdered wood to burn incense, which requires some sort of container. The traditional use of incense is still around, and these appliances are not difficult to find and buy. Yeah, I see those small stoves online all the time, and they're pretty cheap. Back when I investigated in the countryside, I saw an old man with a small portable stove and a box that used to carry incense wood powder. An unexpectedly reliable and practical device. Those are basically the ways to make incense that have developed here in China. However, the production process of this lilac grass is more common in Japan and Thailand. Why would an old man in this country have a traditional recipe that's not at all traditional here in China? Do you think Eloise isn't telling us the truth about where it came from? I do. And the rough way in which the incense was rolled didn't look like it was mass-produced. Then it's highly suspicious that she's the only one supplying it. It's It's dangerous. We are volatile creatures. If we're offered a cheap way to make our troubles disappear, we don't care if it's a cure or a curse. Cecile's a perfect example. It's hard to believe, and if it were me, I'd probably try and find some more wealthy and less troublesome adults as customers. Well, now that I think about it, Phoenix High School is full of kids from rich families. Scarlet sighs and readjusts her sunglasses. If I have to ask around for it, I might make a little more noise than usual. I hope you're okay with that. Just try not to alert the people responsible. We don't want them to become suspicious and make things even more difficult for us. How about talking to one of the students again? That could be kinda difficult. But hey, I'll find a way. Just sit tight until I know more. I really think Scarlet should work as a private investigator. I don't think I'd ever be brave enough to tell her that, though. Her being a lawyer and so good at the fieldwork at the same time is really challenging my professional awareness. These past 2 days have been really hard on you. No biggie. Scarlet puts the papers back into her bag. By the looks of it, she doesn't intend to take the afternoon off either. She is so caught up in talking about her plans that I barely say anything. Sometimes effort and results aren't in proportion. I look up at the ceiling and try to rest my weary eyes for a while. Reading always requires time. The more complicated books obviously taking longer to finish. The books dropped off by the mysterious stranger aren't entertaining and don't make for good reading material. Sometimes the writing style is obscure. Sometimes important references or even huge chunks of the chapter are missing. In a couple of cases, I can't even make out what the texts are about because they break seemingly every rule of basic language. For professional reasons, I have had exchanges with various experts and archaeological scholars in the past. For people like us, piecing together and trying to understand confusing ancient books is nothing new. I dare say we even enjoy the process. Old-fashioned, elaborate phrases have accompanied me for most of my life. The pain in my mind doesn't really have anything to do with them. My brain instinctively refuses to read anything more, just like a child covering its ears to escape a ghost story. It doesn't make any sense, so I'm especially reluctant to give up easily. If I put them on the market, I'm afraid they would just cause a lot of turmoil. That mysterious man hasn't done anything wrong so far, but there's something off about him, always speaking in riddles. It's no good. My head will explode if I keep on reading. Oh, what was your thing? Looks like you've stumbled upon something that has piqued your interest. What? The guy with the poker face is already standing at the work desk. With all due respect, the security measures here are far from perfect. You should be careful. Oh, just let them come. I don't mind sharing these books with anybody. So, what are you up to today? I just happened to pass by. I told you quite clearly I'd visit again in an appropriate time. You seem to want to check up on the sales. Sadly, none of the copies you brought were sold. That's only half the truth, of course. I won't allow those books out of my sight. They are somewhere in the most obscure corner of the shelf, accompanied by the most massive and tedious dictionaries I know. Really? What a pity. People only turn their heads to enjoy clichés, although things of true value are right in front of them. It's one of the great tragedies of this era. Reading cheap novels is much more entertaining than reading your books. You may not believe it, but they were cheap indeed. Huh? I thought there'd be a more interesting backstory to them. After all, none but the most eccentric collectors would hold on to these. That may be true, but their son didn't see it that way. Made a bet, trying to impress the ladies. Kids will be kids. Children from a family of scholars are no exception. It's better to learn how to cope with the losses early on in life. That kid should be thankful that I taught him that lesson before he was let loose in society. Why disguise it as a bet to teach one a lesson? Why not just be a little more honest? Insolent boy! This slave of fashion, basking in your glory. Arrogant fool! This brave young suitor, sharing in my triumph. You mean ignorant fool? I didn't know you were familiar with musicals. Once you've been around long enough, there are always a few quotes that just stick with you. What about you? Do you enjoy the theatre? I haven't watched a play in a long time. Never really developed a habit of watching them. The last time was probably in school, apart from writing and editing short stories myself. Drama. I like a good drama. Stage plays are my favourite. The actors value their mask so very much. Before they step on stage, they carefully take off the mask out of its wooden box and hold it in front of their face. It's as if they will whisper to the mask that they're about to become one. He waves his hands as he talks, highly engaged in the subject matter. Abandon your own self, fully inherit the spirit of your role, and its thoughts become your own. It's a respectable profession, isn't it? The mysterious visitor flashes me a strange smile. I don't have time to indulge him right now. I should move the conversation forward as soon as possible. Ah, cut to the chase. There's no need to beat around the bush. Answer him. It's an admirable profession indeed. Applying knowledge. Let's have a quick chat. Or play dumb. Huh? Probably. You know what? I'm going to answer him. It's an admirable profession indeed. It does require immense passion, skill, and dedication. It's never easy to make a living, no matter which path you choose. You're right. You would do well to stay focused on your path. To fulfill your duties, a strong will and an attitude are of the utmost importance. Is there anything else that you wanted to say? No, that's all. I see you have no intention of giving up. At least my visit enabled me to confirm that. He rearranges his collar and meets my gaze under the brim of his hat. I have some personal business to attend to, so I'll be leaving now. Please treat those books properly. That's all I can do. In spite of those words, the uninvited visitor never even glanced at what was actually on offer in the shop. He leaves after making such a meaningful statement. The sound of his leather shoes soon disappear behind the door. An unsettling premonition begins to rise in my heart. I mean, I'd be a bit worried that he's like, you know, oh, I see you're going to keep going down this pathway. Which leads me to think he knows you're investigating what's going on here, and he might be trying to leave you clues about it. Mysterious, mysterious man. This isn't good. Cecile hasn't written back yet. The school shouldn't have had any strict guidelines concerning mobile phones, and it wouldn't be appropriate to ask Scarlet about this. Regardless of whether Scarlet can pull it off, if she visits the school too often, the possibility of it being discovered will grow. It's not worth the risk. It was a mistake not to ask for Eloise's phone number yesterday. That way, I would have had a second reliable option right now. To be honest, it wouldn't have even mattered if it was a reliable one or not. It would have been better than nothing. My right eye starts twitching uncontrollably at the thought. Although it's probably just from the strain of being in the dark environment. It's easy to let my mind wander. I should call Cecile. I take out my phone and make a quick call to Cecile via the messaging software. Young people seem to be more used to that than properly dialing a number. If I remember correctly, the other person will receive a call request and then... Huh? Ringtone? If this is a coincidence, I'll eat my phone. I walk towards the door and confirm my suspicion. Eloise and Cecile are standing in front of the door, not saying a word. They are holding hands and look rather dishevelled as they walk towards me, one slow step at a time. It looks as if Eloise is guiding Cecile along, but she looks just as unstable on her feet, and it seems like she might fall at any moment. Neither of them bows their head in greeting. Instead, their eyes are staring right at me, the only part of their bodies that seems steady. Even so, I don't feel watched. Their eyes are simply fixed on me, as if observing something that has nothing to do with them. They're just staring at something that happens to be me. Seeing their empty gazes, I suddenly realise a terrible fact. They've had the lilac grass, haven't they? Eloise and Cecile aren't even in this world at all. Eloise turns her head slightly and makes a strange sound. She's talking. Common sense forces me to understand that. Even if a human managed to make such a sound, the sound of two glass shards rubbing against each other can hardly be called a word. No. Cecile doesn't respond at first. The corners of her mouth just keep twitching. I can still hear the ringtone from her phone. Shit. God knows how long they've been waiting at the door, just standing there. I'm afraid that even the most indifferent of neighbours might have called the police. It's a miracle that they were able to walk all the way here at all. It's as if the whole world has forgotten about the two of them. Before I can think about it any further, I grab both of them by the arm and drag them into the store. The ominous premonition that has been lingering in my mind since this morning has turned into a terrible situation that I'm experiencing firsthand. The cramped space seems to have a strange effect. Despite the fact that there are now 3 people in this tight space, I can hear our heartbeats. Things aren't going well, but somehow I'm beginning to calm down. I pick up Cecile's arm and gently tap her upper arm near the elbow. The motion causes her to curl her arm suddenly. At least her reflexes are still there, so simple, straightforward body functions don't seem to be affected, at least not yet. When you think about it, people sometimes walk automatically, even if you're dragging them along. Maybe that's how Eloise pulled Cecile in front of the store, little by little. I try snapping my fingers in front of their eyes, and they redirect their gaze, but that's the only response. Needless to say, they are clearly subdued. Their physical state is very similar to the effect of the incense that Cecile once described to me. Even if I don't want to speculate in this direction, reality doesn't leave me much of a choice. So the situation isn't completely desperate yet. As long as I can transfer information to them, I can try to evoke some kind of response. I've had to deal with a lot of stuff in my life. Before I knew it, I was pretty experienced in terms of psychological analysis. Of course you were. This may prove to be a complete failure, since the source of the symptoms stems from something other than this world. The chances of a blind cat running into a dead rat would actually be higher. I get up and close the door, settle the girls face to face in a chair, and hold up our hands. As mentioned before, holding hands is the most straightforward way to create a connection. If there were only a psychologist here right now. I can only hope that my superficial knowledge of this will work. Eloise, Cecile, take a deep breath. You can see a beam of light in front of you. This isn't a magical formula. The people who taught me these crude hypnosis techniques said that the process itself doesn't really matter. The key to success is to create an environment in which people are willing to listen and accept. Not only is it risky, it's not even safe. As a rule, one needs to feel confident and secure. Although friendship can support people through hardships, they can also be toxic. If they have any hard feelings against each other hidden in their hearts, then touching each other's hands will only be counterproductive. I'm taking a leap of faith here. Now, on the count of 3, you will feel the burden disappear completely. 1, 2, 3. The tension in the air begins to ease up. Something odd seems to fly over my head into the room. Don't. Me. Again. Look. Don't look at me! Eloise closes her eyes and mumbles something, but her breathing sounds smoother and stronger now. Sister, I'm sorry. For some reason, Cecile looks at Eloise apologetically and squeezes her hand tightly. After a long moment, the girl turns her head, an unreadable expression on her face. I'm back again, Mr. Store Manager. Welcome, although the store is closed right now. I can't even remember the last time I wanted some truth this badly. Okay, what the hell is going on with Eloise? Sorry, I haven't restocked in quite some time. We'll need to improvise when it comes to food. Cold noodles it is then. The sky has already gone completely black. The shop is dark and cramped. Not exactly the best environment for the 2 girls, especially in their current condition. That's why I let them stay at my place. Eloise is lying on a makeshift bed with her eyes closed. She'd probably keep on sleeping like a stone even if I caused a ruckus right now. She must be exhausted. Cecile is sitting on a small chair right next to Eloise. The way she's holding Eloise's hand makes it look like a scene in a hospital ward. She still hasn't moved. I tried calling her by name, but she didn't react. She shakes her head and looks at her friend with a great concern. Don't worry too much about it. I don't mean to boast, but I'm quite confident in my skills. She'll be okay. I called a friend to bring some medicine and she's already on her way. It'll be fine. Scarlet agreed to help immediately. That's probably because she's personally invested in this as well. To be honest, I'm hesitant to pat myself on the back just yet. Things are still pretty bad, but this is not the time to panic. Cecile nods absent-mindedly. It's not easy to cope with the fact that someone you like is in a coma. Pretty extreme just to immediately say that she's in a coma, but sure. And this isn't even the last of it. I'm really sorry, Mr. Store Manager. I'm so sorry. Today I... Don't apologise to me. It wasn't an inconvenience or anything. It's not like the shop's overflowing with customers. You should apologise only to yourself. I won't sugarcoat it. There are tough times ahead. I know you're too smart just to ignore other people's advice and act recklessly. So there must be some kind of explanation for what happened. I crouched down so Cecile and I are on eye level. She hasn't eaten much today and seems weak and frail. Can you tell me what really happened? Cecile doesn't answer immediately. She leans forward and gently strokes Eloise's hair. For a moment, she seems to be lost in a world far removed from feelings such as joy or sorrow. There's an inscrutable expression on her face. Mr. Store Manager, can you promise me one thing? That depends on what the request is. Alicia decides to speak. She must have gone over it in her head many times. Whatever I say next, please just forgive Eloise, okay? That concludes our club activities for today. Remember to clean up after yourselves. If you want to continue painting, go ahead. But don't forget, the last one out closes the door. Class dismissed. Business as usual at the art club today. Orderly, quiet, structured. Nothing's changed. Although the problem has been entrusted to the man outside the school, the situation hasn't changed yet. Still, Cecile keeps to herself and doesn't complain. These issues need to be solved one after another. Solving one problem won't make another one simply disappear. Everything has to be done in order. Impatience doesn't help at all, so you need to keep your mind calm and treat the people around you well. That's what Cecile was taught, so her patience knows no bounds. Even so, she carries an anxiety with her that she just can't shake. You're the one on clean-up duty today, aren't you, birthday girl? It's so much work, though. Let's just go. That one always laughing and smiling. How annoying. Perhaps it's just me. Cecile shakes her head to vent her frustration and organises her tools. It's her birthday today. For some reason, that girl thinks she can shirk her duties because it's her birthday. Cecile decides to take over the girl's duties, knowing full well not to expect any gratitude or appreciation. Cecile isn't angry with Eloise at all. Having to report to the teacher for an important project and then following that up with 3 study appointments in the afternoon is more than enough justification to leave early. Cecile doesn't blame the teacher either. At his age, he must be under a lot of stress too. He's probably just reaching his breaking point. At her previous schools, some people thought she was being too tolerant. Cecile never considered it a flaw though. And just like that, she's suddenly the last person in the room. Usually several students stay after class to practice. They aren't very chatty and Cecile often feels anxious when they're around. Is there some school activity going on? Everybody's gone. I guess I'll just finish this. It's unjust, but Alicia can avoid trouble this way. She carefully puts away the chalk and the board eraser, repositions the crooked desk, and closes the window. Next up is the unbelievably large trash heap on the floor. People think it's always clean and neat in here, But when a dozen students get together and throw ideas and concepts around, there's bound to be a lot of ideas that land in the trash. Waste paper, canvases, wood chips, and obviously some oil paint that has got spilled. Since it is an airy room, it's starting to smell a little, but there isn't a lot of dust from outside either. A blessing and a curse. Cecile walks to the locker in the back of the room to get the broom. The whole locker is filled with red paint. Is it red paint though? Despite the obvious difference in smell, the deep hues are eerily reminiscent of blood. Okay, Andalona's going to make a prediction here. Maybe Eloise isn't the person that she saw in the vision. And it's Lily instead, and Lily's died. She's not off school, she's been killed. This is just so much. It's semi-dry and there's so much of it that it was obviously done on purpose. Somebody must have deliberately been messing with her. But that's not the point. Cecile doesn't even bother looking for a motive for the prank. Why would somebody do this? Even if it's just to annoy Cecile, this affects everyone. The whole class is going to suffer under the pungent smell. Thinking about the others, Cecile grabs a few mops and rags and begins scrubbing the inside of the locker. She could just refuse to do it and leave. She's not on duty today. No, I don't want to put any more pressure on Eloise. Who knows what type of pranks they'll come up with if she decides to show signs of resistance. She doesn't want Eloise to worry about her any more than she already does. This won't end well. Cecile is smart enough to know that, but there's no way out of this right now. Before joining the club, Cecile just wanted a place where she belongs. Even in the current situation, she doesn't want to let go of that. Even the upper corners of the locker are full of paint. She has to hurry up, otherwise it'll be impossible to get these stains out. I mean, it's paint on metal, it's not going to, just seep in and get stuck there, is it? Especially oil paint. You'd think that would just wipe straight off with a bit of, acetone or something. Cecile shuffles around doing her best to clean up the mess. Then suddenly, a hand shoves her into the locker. What? She's stuck inside the locker. Acting on instinct, there's only one reaction that makes sense to her. She kicks hard against the door from the inside. It's no use. Something's blocking the door. This is more than just a harmless prank. Who's out there? She starts shouting and kicks against the door again. Whoever's out there won't answer. She can hear panicked footsteps, the sound of someone running away. Let me out! Knock, knock, knock. He won't budge. Her small frame can't do anything against this obstacle. Knock, knock, knock. It won't budge. A flash of dizziness. She's afraid she won't be able to breathe if this keeps up. She's panicking, which is draining even more of her strength. Her ankles are sore and her hands are sweaty. She can't even turn her body around. Cecile leans against the locker wall. Her whole body is shaking and taken over by panic. She cuts herself, but she ignores it completely. She leans her forehead against the cold locker door. Please, help. She can hear footsteps again, but this time further in the distance. Whoever's out there probably thinks Cecile is quieting down. Hey, it's me. The voice sounds muffled through the heavy door, but it's clearly a girl talking. Well, it's done. Scared the shit out of me. I didn't think she'd be this strong. Cecile concentrates. Is this a member of the art club? She's locked up now. That should teach her a lesson. What? I don't care what happens, okay? I have it under control. I told you it would be a problem if anything came out. It sounds as if she's talking to someone on the phone. Cecile reaches into her pocket, but then she quickly remembers that she put her things in a drawer. If she had a way to call Eloise, she'd probably come rushing over immediately. What if the relationship between Eloise and the club members gets even worse because of this? Maybe it's better this way. Everything's fine. I'll just have to go wash my hands in a minute. She's still talking, walking around the room. She sounds pretty anxious. What I mean is it really necessary to take things this far? Okay, I know. Not my decision. But I'm not comfortable with this. I don't think it's that big of a deal. It's not a joke. The teacher can't find out about this. No big deal? Is what this is to them? Cecile feels rage burning up inside her. Suddenly the voice outside sounds louder and more energetic. Don't even mention that! I only promised to help you because I owe you! There's a sound of metal and wood, and several chairs are being dragged across the floor. What if the representative finds out? Huh? Don't keep pushing me. The voice is filled with anger. Cecile expects a sudden outburst to happen any moment. But it doesn't. There's the sound of chairs being dragged around again, and then there's an abrupt silence. No, I didn't mean that. Hey, don't be like that. Don't. I'm sorry. Okay? Don't tell the teacher? Okay, I promise. It's just a little excessive. Her pace quickens all of a sudden, and then the sound fades away. Whoever she is, she's left the classroom. Although it wasn't interesting to listen in on them, it isn't really helpful in this situation. The adrenaline that was rushing through Cecile is fading away, and she's left with nothing but an intense feeling of exhaustion. She needs to calm down and think of a way out of here. Cecile sighs hopelessly, surrounded by inky blackness. There's no way for her to get out of here, so she'd better save her strength. Even though no other meetings are scheduled in here today, somebody will come looking for her if she's missing for too long. Right? That's about our only ray of hope right now, that some class member who probably doesn't care about any of this will notice. She needs to do this without Eloise's help. She can't drag her into this no matter what. This is probably going to take a while, locked up in this dark, cramped place. Wait a minute. Just now, Cecile realised that her body feels weird somehow. This is just a regular locker. The door shouldn't be strong enough to keep a person locked up. Her arms and knees feel weak. She doesn't have any strength left. The smell of wet paint is seeping into her brain, and she's having a hard time breathing. Her bursts of breath are getting shorter every time she inhales. The endless darkness makes everything so much worse. Help! It feels as if her hands are grabbing onto her limbs, holding her back. She feels a wave of helplessness crash over her. The more powerless she feels, the more her mind starts playing tricks on her. Suffocation. That's all she can think about right now. It's getting worse by the second. Invisible hands are choking her, grabbing her by the throat. She faintly knocks against the door again. There's no response. Please, help me! The walls around her are closing in. She can't move. They are coming closer and closer, like a coffin wrapping itself around her body. Coffin? That's the word in her mind that pushes her over the edge. She's trembling. Pearls of cold sweat dripping from her pale, panicked face. Dark. 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 The endless darkness just opens up its huge jaws. Those things are nearby. They are everywhere, crawling over Cecile's legs, whispering in her ears. Her body is completely paralysed and refuses to move as much as an inch. Dark. 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 Words fail her, and the darkness swallows her whole. Hey, pull yourself together. I know it is quite intense right now, but you know what I'm thinking? And I said these might be irrelevant. The scaly silkworm, looking into the void. It's merciless, staring into the void. Maybe that's a clue. Cecile is panting and her eyes are wide open. She's covered from head to toe in cold sweat and grabs Eloise's hand without even noticing it. She clutched it so tightly that it almost turns blue. Ah! She looks down at the pale hand and quickly loosens her grip. I'm sorry. It's a good thing her hand has brought you back to the consciousness. On a side note, Cecile always seemed a little nervous in the bookstore. If she's claustrophobic, that would explain it. And from that point on, you weren't really conscious of what you were doing. It felt weird, somehow different, but I really can't remember what happened. I only remember that it was very dark and narrow, so narrow that I couldn't breathe. Although I've always been afraid of enclosed spaces, I've never ever felt such an intense fear before. I tried to open the door, but it wouldn't budge. The uncertainty of when, or if, I was getting out was horrible. Next thing I know, Eloise rescued me. Hello? Anybody? The all-encompassing fog slowly disappears, and her field of vision clears up. She can hear the faint sound of music coming from somewhere. It seems almost unreal. What time is it? It feels as if the whole century has passed. Cecile has lost all track of time as she opens her eyes. Then she finally recognises the faint voice coming from outside. Are you awake? Eloise looks sad and worried. Eloise, What's going on? If I hadn't tried to contact you, I would have never known you were... Eloise sounds worried and angry at the same time. Although she is doing her best to restrain herself, Cecile can feel the rage burning inside of her, directed at whoever did this. Cecile can't help but think that this could be a chance to lay everything bare, a chance to avoid trouble like this from now on. But no. It doesn't matter, Eloise. It was just a silly little prank. She raises her hand and touches Eloise's face. Sure enough, there is a cut on her left hand. The sticky blood running over her palm is confirmation enough. The windows are covered in a red hue as the sun sets majestically over the mountains in the distance. Everything is okay now. Eloise is here. Even though the shock is still fresh in her mind, Cecile has never felt so at peace before. So at peace. An all too familiar smell drifts through the room. Eloise, when did you... Do you mean the incense? You were twitching when you were unconscious. It seemed as if you were going through something horrible. So I thought some incense might calm you down. Eloise seems completely out of it. She is holding some incense in her hand. No wonder Cecile's body felt weak and floaty. Being exposed to the incense leads to a dulling of the senses. It makes you lose your bodily awareness. Cecile feels bad. She hasn't forgotten her promise to the store manager and the advice he gave her. The hallucinations over the last 10 days have been horrible. All the more reason to take a step back and be more careful. Eloise, maybe we shouldn't... She tries to sit up, but her body is too weak, and she isn't in control of her limbs. Eloise takes Cecile's hand and pulls her into a hug. A warm darkness shrouds Cecile's vision, and Eloise's steady heartbeat feels like a lighthouse beacon guiding her. Don't worry, this is all you need right now. But incense does calm her down, that much is true, and right now it is helping Cecile get her rapidly beating heart and her regular breathing under control. However, Eloise's words are strange, almost slurred somehow. Are you worried about seeing those things? The question rattles Cecile. She hadn't really talked to Eloise about these things before. How did she know? For some reason, Eloise smiles, but it also looks melancholic. I've seen those things too before, you know. Those phantoms, humans, things, all kinds of scenes in all kinds of times and space. I've seen it all. So what? Those phantoms are nothing more than illusions. So why worry about something that isn't real? So what exactly is she up to? Cecile doesn't understand Eloise's agenda here. Eloise seems to be looking straight through her. Cecile, you're the only thing that's real, and I'm the only one who's always been there for you. Eloise suddenly looks away and avoids Cecile's eye, a little embarrassed. Cecile can hear her heartbeat, a clear, constant sound. How many times has that sound guided through the hallucinations? Cold fear starts closing in on Cecile all of a sudden. When I enter those other worlds, time is an elusive concept. Sometimes I feel as if I spent centuries there. So, with the incense, we can spend even more time together. Eloise's voice is barely more than a whisper, and her cheeks turn bright red. Cecile knows exactly what that feels like. Eloise knows it too, yet she lied about it to others. Cecile isn't sure what the true meaning behind Eloise's words is, but they comfort her and give her a sense of relief. Her vision begins to blur again, and then there's a familiar ringing in her ears. Something more than a warmth is rising up inside of her. Eloise opens her bag and pulls out several sticks of incense. She lines up the sticks on a table in front of them. Hey, wait a minute. You know, I've never been as good as you. I've had countless opportunities to make the art club a better place, but I was never successful. But you're different. The way in which you stay persistent inspires me. I don't think I could ever sit in the same room with people who treat me like that. I envy you so much. How do you do it? What were you like in the past? I've always been curious, and the incense satisfies that curiosity. That's right, Cecile. I've seen your past. Eloise keeps talking about dangerous, unnatural things. Most of all, I see your persistence. But it isn't enough. Those small glimpses aren't enough. I want to know more. Even if we see a lot of strange, inexplicable things, short bursts of pain are better than prolonged pain. No matter how long it takes, we should get to know each other better. Cecile desperately tries to open her eyes, but it's futile. Her eyelids are too heavy. Her body has no energy left, and a wave of weariness sweeps over her. In a strange way, it feels comforting. Is this really who Eloise is? Really what she thinks? How peculiar. Cecile feels sorry for letting the store manager down, but all she can do is apologise to him later. Then, Cecile's mouth moves of its own accord. With you here, it's not so bad. For a short moment, Eloise's eyes flicker open. She soon regains her composure, although she can't hide her smile. I understand. Thank you, Cecile. Even after this statement, Cecile finds it difficult to meet Eloise's inscrutable gaze. The lilac grass is emitting soft whispers of smoke. They're so faint that you can hardly tell if it's actually burning. However, everything is starting to look very different after inhaling it for just a few minutes. Is it too much? The sweet and aromatic scent has changed to something like the smell of a dense forest after a rainy night, thick enough to make Cecile's head throb. Meanwhile, the faint music in her ears is turning into a strange chant. Cecile doesn't recognise the language, but she knows one thing. Although they sound like voices, they're not coming from this world. Just like images and smells, this is simply a manifestation of the senses. Feeling more weighed down than ever before, Cecile stops resisting and allows her heavy eyes to fall closed. The darkness behind her eyelids is twisting into an endless, intimidating tunnel. Her feet leave the ground and her physical senses dissipate like smoke. Her consciousness leaves her body behind, and her perception starts to expand. Suddenly, an altogether different scene manifests before her eyes. The art club is packed with people. There are many familiar faces, but many more than she's ever seen before. Eloise is arguing loudly with someone. The whole situation is pretty intense. Cecile doesn't recognise the other girl, but she looks older than Eloise, Lily. She's holding a fiery red watercolour painting, her face twisted and angry. Eloise's aura exudes pure anger. Cecile has never seen Eloise this openly emotional and out of control before. The whole scene is very unsettling. Eloise turns to face the other art club members, expecting some kind of reply, but no one responds. Being ignored. The very same situation Cecile finds herself in way too often. Eloise has reached her breaking point. The very last remains of her patience have all but faded away. She grabs the canvas from the other side of the classroom and runs towards the exit. The other girl seems unbelievably offended and storms out the room running after her Eloise. Eloise! The door opens and everything freezes. And then, hundreds of hallucinations closing in all at once. A flock of white doves takes flight among the desolate ruins of the several tall buildings. 8 cheetahs dash through the debris and rubble. Countless figures are lined up, silhouetted against the sunset above this endless sea. Apes are kneeling down in front of a statue in deep devotion and worship. Silent lightning and a cloud of colour dance across the sky. Pink, fleshy pillars of meat rise from the ground, squirming like maggots. Standing on an overcast tower in the far distance, a shadowy figure spreads its arms. Electric bolts come crashing down from above and countless fragments fall to the ground. Priests in Daoist robes, along with thin, ant-like creatures, are facing large pyramids and bowing to the sun. The visions are all over the place. There's no logic to anything and no way to tell where and when they are taking place. There are no words, no meaning for this. It's like a glimpse into a realm unknown to humans, something so far removed from our own known understanding of the world that the mind has no way of coping with it. Scarlet is there with Eloise now, but the images are fading in and out of focus, like waves breaking on the beach, only to retreat back into the ocean soon after. Suddenly, everything is green. Strong ferns spread across the valley, a completely different scene. A bed of leaves is spread across the ground. Giant creatures covered in feathers and scales slowly stride past on elongated legs. Every so often they emit a deep, muffled hums. There's no sign that humans ever existed. In the distant darkness, a shooting star crosses the sky. Cecile doesn't turn around fast enough to see it properly. It's no big deal. There's no time for regret right now. Even if she wanted to stop, she couldn't. She isn't in control right now. The constant chanting slowly fades away and is replaced by something else. The indescribable spectacle unfolds mercilessly before Cecile's eyes. What did you say that was the last thing you saw? I just need Cecile to confirm it again. The answer, probably. She looks out of the window and responds flatly. The look on her face indicates that she understood the question, but that she doesn't know how to phrase the answer properly. I saw many things. All kinds of things. There was nothing solid there, no clear picture. Yet it was everything I could ever imagine. It was 1,000 miles away, yet still right in front of me. There was no aura surrounding it, no colour, just existence itself, in all its possible forms. Why call it the answer? I don't know. From the first moment I saw it, that's the only word I could find to describe it. Mr. Store Manager, are you familiar with the Mobius Loop? It's a very popular concept in a branch of mathematics called topology. It only has one side and one boundary curve. There's actually one without a boundary called the Klein bottle. It's a non-orientable surface which can't exist within a 3-dimensional world. Looks like my math class wasn't a complete waste of time after all. What I saw in my hallucination was even more chaotic. It was unreal. I couldn't make out its shape however long I looked at it. It was something foreign, something that doesn't follow our world's geometric rules. Every part of it was connected to every place that could possibly exist, completely independent of each other. I don't know how to describe it, it's impossible. Lights, rules, shapes, cause and effect, nothing compares to it, not in this world. Straight lines aren't straight, and ends don't line up with beginnings. It's like a complex web full of meaningful elements, and from any point in it you can get to where you want to be. The answer, I suppose. I don't quite get why you picked the word to describe it. That wasn't my decision. It was there long before I ever found out about it. Cecile raises her hands hopelessly, still trying to explain it. It's the beginning and the end. It's around me and within me at the same time. It's where time was born and where time will be laid to rest. I feel like all knowledge is there, the meaning of everything, but even that's just the tip of the iceberg. Like the Daoist concept? Saying it like that would limit it, but yes, kind of. All things are one. I'm reminded of that phrase. It seems a fitting way to describe this answer. So, you saw this answer and then something changed. Cecile shakes her head. It left me breathless. That much I know. But in a strange way. It was too confusing to be scary. There's so much I simply don't understand about it. The thing is, the moment I saw it, I think I became a target. She sounds deeply depressed and can't keep the fear out of her voice. A pair of piercing blue eyes were watching me from the sidelines. But because I was focused on everything else, they weren't that conspicuous. Why was I the only one there? When that thought hit me, it had already been staring at me for quite a while. Wherever I looked, its gaze followed me. Every time I glanced at it, my body felt like it was turning to ice. There was a brief moment in which our eyes locked. I saw a reflection in its eyes, and it showed me the end of everything. Torn, cut, rotten, bloodied, impaled, burned, crushed, drowned. Nothing but death. I didn't know what to do, but it seemed like I was going to reach that ending someday. Cecile wraps her arms around herself, and I realise that the whole back is covered in sweat. Her whole back, sorry. Mr. Store Manager, it's so horrible. If that catches up with us, it will devour us. That's when everything began falling apart. A blinding light came crashing down, brighter than 1,000 stars exploding. One could say that I was submerged in a lake of hallucinations, and something pulled me up. I could feel those eyes on me, following my every move. Even with my back turned to them, I still felt their presence as I moved further away. I tried to run, but it was as if the ground itself was slowing me down. Like mud, the eyes came closer. I had no choice but to swim upwards, but the panic and fear robbed me of my strength and paralysed me. I couldn't see clearly anymore. Cecile shuddered and her whole voice became more withdrawn by the second. I pat her on the shoulder. She's covered in cold sweat. Alright, can you stop saying how much sweat Cecile's covered in? I've got it by now, Store Manager. It's like some sort of creepy fetish at this point. Shivering as if she was just pulled from the water. And then, the next thing you knew, you're in the bookstore, right? She attempts to wipe the cold sweat off her face and nods. This is all my own fault. Please don't blame Eloise, okay? Truth be told, this doesn't surprise me at all. The lilac grass came from Eloise. I suspected it all along, but this isn't the right moment for a snarky remark. Still, this raises a lot of questions. The patch of red on her arm backs up her story. Without Eloise's quick assessment of the situation, Cecile might still be stuck in that locker. For someone suffering from such a severe claustrophobia, it's no laughing matter. The situation in the real world is bad enough for Cecile, and these hallucinations are even more worrying. Where the hell did those eyes come from? What could be haunting a person trapped in such a strange fantasy? Usually, trying to discuss any scenarios that someone experienced under the influence of a hallucinogenic drug is pretty ridiculous. It never makes much sense, but Cecile's situation isn't comparable to that. Since her illusion can be traced back to reality, it is important to take into account the fact that something that appears in the illusion may have a practical meaning. Either way, we need to find out where the incense came from. No matter how miraculous and strange her encounters are, there is always an environmental basis for their existence. Mountains, grasslands. She sees actual biomes. So at least there's some twisted logic to it. The incense's effects are now more obvious than before. I've always wanted to identify the history of the incense, but the clinical symptoms were a mystery to me, and there were only a limited amount of information available. However, the situation has changed drastically. As for information, the strange guy who keeps delivering books has also kindly prepared some for me. Whatever his ulterior motive is, this is proof that the books have real value. It should be possible to find out some records related to the things Cecile described. Although ancient techniques may have changed throughout the years, their functionality and purpose haven't. First, we should find out what the incense is all about. Okay. The reflector passed. What have we got now? So, why is the lilac grass's origin? Cecile finally confessed that she has a dream. Where exactly does this incense cause the mysterious effect come from? Ancient scriptures. Spirit fragmentation. This is what meditation of a paladin of Taoist used to move their soul through time. You know what? How about that? Ancient prescriptions. I don't think this. The misdeeds of the Art Association. No. Iron but not steel. Maybe it's the Chronicles of the Crane Temple. Nope. Well, let's look at how things are connected. Confirming the incense's origin requires relevant proof. Theories and evidence are key in this case. The main effect of this lilac grass is that it causes hallucinations. Most of the people using it want it to happen. Therefore, when someone describes this incense, their main focus is the hallucinations. Okay, so it's not this. How about this? The unforgettable experience. Because then it is... Well, maybe we don't have any conclusions in here. Maybe that is the thing. Where did it come from is the question. So we have Cecile's decision still. I don't think it's that. Maybe it isn't this, and maybe it's the Chronicles... Oops. Of the Crane Temple. Or maybe I'm missing a book. Because it's not this. Because this is to the relationship. I don't think it's going to be this. Because it doesn't really tell you anything about, where it came from or what it's for. Well, let's look at how things are connected. Confirming the incense's origin requires relevant proof. Theories and evidence are key in this case. I need to discover the true nature of the incense. At least I've already figured out the true nature of the hallucinations caused by it. It's pretty clear that the hallucinations reflect real events somehow. Okay. Can I back out of this? Or do I have to solve it here? I think I have to solve it here. Maybe it's not this. Oh, I don't know. It feels like it should be this so much. I mean, I can't go forward and backwards. I can't back out, so... Chronicles of the Crane Temple. I mean, this doesn't say anything to do with powders. This is just kind of what I felt like was the evidence towards the locker situation. This relates to visions. So Cecile suffered alone. I don't think that makes any sense. She arrives somewhere within the universe where the laws of time and space transcended anyone's imagination. Maybe it is this one then. Because again, this is people's feelings between one another, so Eloise and Cecile. I don't think it's to do with the misdeeds of the Art Association. Third time lucky, maybe? Nope. Suspicion failed. It was a really close call. We should have paid better attention. What are we missing? There has to be a way to fight this. This is driving me crazy. We're on the right path, but how do we overcome the obstacles in our way? A sudden knock on the door interrupts my string of thought. It wasn't really going anywhere anyway. At last, help is here. The door opens without me having invited anyone in yet. Hello there. Is this the Ritz? Scarlet hastily steps inside. She sounds exhausted. These last 2 days must have done quite a number on her, snooping around day and night, doing investigative work, and now, on top of all that, running errands for me. What made you think it'd be okay to harbour someone who needs treatment here? The second-hand smoke alone is enough to kill anything that's still breathing. It's cute how much you care about my health. Did you bring it? Scarlet smiles and hands Cecile a plastic bag. Cecile's eyes wander over to mine. She looks confused. I wave a hand at her, indicating that it's alright. This should be just what she needs. Wet these patches with hot water and place them on her temples. Remove them regularly and wipe off any residue. Wait a little before putting on a new patch every time you change them. Put them on for around 30 seconds and wait for about 10 seconds before putting on the next one. So, I'm doing this? Cecile seems a little overwhelmed by the instructions. Honestly, I think Scarlet's just playing professional doctor to gain Cecile's trust. Better do what she says. It was hard enough getting her here. She can be quiet. A sharp elbow in the ribs quickly reminds me to choose better timing for my cheeky comments when I'm around Scarlet. So, Cecile was it? Give your classmate some of that medicine. Meanwhile, this guy and I have some things to discuss outside. Oh, right. Feel free to use the water kettle over there. Okay, thank you. Cecile bows in Scarlet's direction and runs off to the bathroom, kettle in hand. She's a really polite kid. Scarlet whispers behind Cecile's back. More polite than a certain someone, at the very least. Don't you dare! I only used about 20% of my power with that last elbow. What's the deal with the air conditioning? You haven't been here so that long. Are you just using this place as a trap to suffocate? I flubbed this line so much I'm going to start it again. What's the deal with the air conditioning? You haven't been here that long, have you? Are you using this place as a trap to suffocate people or something? I don't pay the utility bills anyway. So, fine. We can turn it on. At least while the girls are here. I shrug and follow Scarlet out of the room. Okay, I'm going to have to end it there before I do an hour and a 30-minute video. It all really might be up to that at this point. I don't even know what time we're on. Didn't see the clock where I started recording. Okay, I don't think it was too bad in time-wise. Anyway, pretty intense episode. So, we failed an investigation, unfortunately. Can I repeat this, though? No, I can't. It's barred me out of it, which is a pity. I don't know if we missed something. So it just says failed. Like, I don't know. I felt like this was something, sorry, the ancient prescriptions. Well, maybe that was wrong. Maybe it was actually like vision of human eyes. An unforgettable experience, and then maybe the previous conclusion that the visions reflect the past. I don't know. I could save something, but I'm not interested in that. We'll just keep it as a fail. I don't know how that it's going to affect the final story, but who knows. Anyway, thanks a lot for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like, comment, subscribe. Everything helps me out. This story starting to heat up now. We're starting to get a little bit of chilly heat into the story, and I approve of it. Anyway, see you next time. Goodbye.